Hi, it's Sam here, and welcome back to the question and answer series. This is volume 4, and I've got another half dozen of your questions today to quickly get through. So, without further ado, question 1. Just wondered if you know much about spironolactone tablets. I've been given some for hormone therapy and just wondered if this would affect me in the gym in building muscle, performance, etc. Can't find much online apart from it's a banned substance in professional sports. Well, spironolactone, sometimes called aldactone, is a diuretic. There are several types of diuretic medicines, casually known as water pills, sometimes prescribed for things like high blood pressure, general edema problems. I assume this is from your doctor. This is a question from a woman, by the way, so that's perhaps why she's a little bit alarmed that this may impact on sports performance. Why is it banned? Is it going to be something that's going to cause masculinizing effects? Well, don't worry about any of that. It's not AAS or anything like that. It is a diuretic, specifically a potassium-sparing diuretic, spironolactone. I guess what's caused the question, are you wondering, is that you've seen that it's sometimes banned in professional sports. So the way to check this is the World Anti-Doping Association, WADA. They have their list, and it's usually republished every year. So in the current version, and it has been for a number of years, there's a section on diuretics and masking agents, and spironolactone is in the section on diuretics and masking agents, as it is a diuretic, specifically a potassium-sparing diuretic. So you go ahead and deal with it with your doctor. That is absolutely fine. It's not something that's going to cause masculinizing changes. Virilization effects is sometimes called. But the reason it's banned in professional sports is these diuretics make people lose weight very, very quickly because they make you lose a lot of water, which leads to, 5, 6, 7 pounds of weight loss quite quickly in a couple of hours. So how that applies to sports is sports like fighting kind of sports, or even with the bodybuilding side, you've got the weight categories, even weightlifting, weight categories. So it's part of the game to try and be the strongest in the lowest kind of weight category you can be in. So for the weigh-in, people try and cut weight, and one of the ways that they might mess around doing that is with laxatives and fasting and stuff like that, but most specifically and relevant here, diuretics to lose water weight for a weigh-in, and then after the weigh-in they kind of feed up and rehydrate back to their true weight, which would have been out of the limit. So that's why they've got an eye on it in sports, because it's not a technique that all sports are happy with, and it can be very, very dangerous, especially not under a doctor's supervision when you make yourself that dehydrated. So about the reputation of the sport as well as whether it's a competitive advantage or not. Hope that makes sense. Nothing for you to worry about. As I say, deal with it with your doctor, but it's a diuretic, spironolactone. Next question. How often do you eat liver, Sam? Got some this week and not that keen. Obviously, no, it's good for you, but if I could just eat eggs, steak and mince, that would be preferable. Okay, so the reason I sometimes mention organ meats, specifically liver, kidney, hearts, is because they are, calorie for calorie, the most nutrient-dense foods, so the most packed with micronutrients that are essential to the body. They're very high up there, but also eggs are very high up there when you eat the yolk, and red meat like lamb and beef in general is very high. It's just that these are a little bit higher. So they're actually so high that it's not such an advantage all of the time. Like you can overdo it with vitamin A if you're eating too much liver. So it's the kind of thing where it doesn't need to be a dietary staple, but you can actually feel a lot better if you have liver, say, once a week or once a fortnight. But what you want to be careful of with this whole like low carb world and carnivore diets and stuff like that is when someone overemphasizes the organ meats. Usually there's some kind of scam going on, or there's going to be some kind of supplement you don't need that's very quick to follow, because what these people know is that most people don't really like the taste of organ meats, but they're easily sold on the idea that it's very good for you. So then they step in and say, buy the tablet form of it instead, and then that becomes a continuity product, and they make loads of money off selling you something that you don't need and may not be as good as the real thing anyway. So classic example of that. There was the whole Liver King fiasco. You know, what he's doing has got nothing to do with liver, as beneficial as liver is. I would eat liver once a week, or kidney. But you know, it's not necessarily a mainstay. And if you don't like it that much, you did also mention when we spoke about this that it was not very nice on the reheat. So yeah, it's not something that you can keep or like cook for multiple days. Liver, I'd say, or heart or kidney, they're the main ones that I like. I would say just don't overcook it. Treat it like a steak that you were going to do medium rare. Cook it, eat a little bit of it. A little bit goes a long way, but you know, don't make it a staple. Don't batch cook it, and don't force feed yourself it at all if you don't feel like you actually like it. When the rest of your diet is nutrient dense enough with the eggs and the red meat and the fatty fish. Hope that makes sense. Next question: are you doing more interviews or looking for people to interview at the moment? Well, when the opportunity arises, I did recently do an interview with the Vanquish guys that I know personally at their pop-up for the sales, and that was very enjoyable. There are a couple of other people locally that I'm very interested in their results and methods. That would be a really useful interview for you, but I won't disclose those now. I'll spoil the surprise, but I'm open to interviews and collaborations, but not specifically looking for them at the moment. Next question: who is a good coach, or how do I find a good coach? Okay, there's a lot of skills that go into being a good coach. There's the knowledge base, the track record that they've proven that they can walk the walk themselves and produce results for other people. It's a little bit of a seesaw, because the more someone has that reputation that they've done loads and they become very well known for it, they may have more and more clients. They're more and more famous, and therefore when you jump in with them as someone new, there's less attention that they can give you. So I think there has to be a balance between the knowledge and experience, but also the attention and interest that they've actually got in your progress as well. So there's that side to it. Definitely the skills are the knowledge and the experience, and the soft skills like empathy and communication skills, them actually caring about your progress, them wanting to see you do your best, them wanting you not to get hurt, them wanting to carefully monitor these things, particularly if you've got a contest in mind. It's not really a case of like the ranking of the best. It's kind of what's best at your level, because it's how much attention they can give you to what level you're at. So it's like when you start playing the guitar or something like that. You know, if you're a seasoned professional, maybe you want the Gibson Les Paul, but that would be sort of silly and a waste of money if you're just getting into this, and maybe, you know, at the sort of 200 price point, the Yamaha Pacifica would be the awesome guitar, you know. So it's what fits. And then there's the personal side of it. You've got to be able to get on with this person, so it's also a good match in terms of your personalities and methods and experience and stuff like that. So I think you've got to shop around a little bit. Probably best to speak to a few people, get a feel for their personality and their methods, and whether you could work together and how much attention they could give you, if they can answer most of your questions, or if they're honest about what they can do for you, and that they would go away and find out in the instance that they don't know what you need to know. So I'd say don't rush into it, and you know, take your time to find the right coach for you, which is not necessarily the most famous one. But it's got to be someone that knows what they're doing, for sure. So they've got to have done it a bit. They've got to have done it for someone else a bit. And best of luck with that. I can't say what it's like from the client side, because I've never had a coach. I've taught myself and studied and read all the books, and it's been 20 years. And for me to take a coach would sort of take my kind of enjoyment in that side of it out. But there's one or two that I do think I resonate with when I see what they've got to say out there, like Peter Hill. I've never worked with him, but I just sort of feel like if I was looking for a coach, he would be a good one. But that's just his manner and experience, and I don't know what anyone's like to work with, to tell you the truth. Just take your time. Next one: when is the best time of day to train? Usually people find that once they've had 2 or 3 meals for the day, they're better set up to train. So that would be kind of straight after work. So you'd get up, you'd have breakfast, 1 or 2 days, 1 or 2 meals throughout the day as part of your work day or whatever else you're doing. then hit the gym. But that can coincide with the busiest time in the gym because a lot of people are following that kind of schedule. So it's when you're going to be well rested, well fed, and not disturbed to crack on with your workout, which is going to be different times of the day for different people with their lifestyles and depending on what gym they use. So I would say experiment with it. I would say for you personally, you're not going to know until you try a few kind of times a day. But when you do fix on a time of day that's working for you in terms of your food, your rest, and you're not being too busy and you're feeling right for it, do the same every day, because then it's easier to form the habit over a couple of months and be consistent, and it'll also tie in with your meal plan and when you sleep, because a lot of the time our meal plans and what we eat and the macronutrient breakdown is calibrated to where that meal was in line with the training. So it's easier to get the whole system working properly if it's going to be the same time every day. So if that happens to be first thing in the morning, so be it. If it happens to be at lunchtime, so be it. After work, so be it. Late night, so be it. But once you've found the one for you, settle on it and get the whole structure working around it. And finally for today, how do you know when you're ready to compete? Again, like a lot of my answers, it's going to depend on the scenario. So it depends what kind of competition and how far off you are at it. So there's different levels of this, depending on which federation it's going to be, which discipline it's going to be, say classic versus open bodybuilding. So I would say if you're roughly kind of the size, but you're, someone that's got an eye for it, or you yourself can tell that you're about 30 to 40 pounds like overweight and oversized for that category, you would be ready for it depending on how quickly it would take you to cut. But it's going to be when you're basically about 30 or 40 pounds like heavier than what would be the standard for that particular competition. So that could be quite early on in your career if it was certain federations, or it might be much later on if it was certain other kinds of contests. So basically look at the standard, get some stats for it, get someone who knows what they're looking at to have a look at your stats and your physique, and you'll be able to determine what or when would be an appropriate contest. But no need to rush into it. I sort of trained for many years before I got into the contest side. Anyway, that's all for today. I welcome any of your other questions. Just pop them in the comments, and if you like my explanations and want to keep up to date with what I'm researching and what I'm discovering and the analysis that I bring, consider subscribing and let me know you've subscribed, and I'll reply when I've got time. And have a good day. Train hard.